Howdy, I'm Jake and you're watching the Prepper's Bunker Outdoors. That's not how we do intros anymore. So I'm out here today with a big knife, making a fire, cleaning up the property, carried out a hidden woodsman bag full of goodies. And those are kind of all of the main key ingredients along with my dog Dax, who I'm sure you'll see in a moment for a really good time. What we're here to talk about today is the Work Tuff Gear V44X. This is a knife that I've been excited about for a very long time. And if you're a fan of big knives or bowies or any combination of those things, you're going to want to stick around and check this out. So one of the first things that people is going to want to know is where can I buy it and when. I got a few of the early knives that went out for testing, and so these are going to be available, I believe, December of 23. Anything could happen, that could change a bit, but you're going to want to follow Work Tuff for up-to-date information about it. I've been excited about this knife for a long time. I follow the designer, Well Regulated, on Instagram. I'll put his handle in the description box below, who designed this. I've been following it for a long time. And so essentially, this design, I watched from its very inception, actually even sending pictures back and forth. I watched this knife come from the classic Marine Raider Bowie knife. So think of a classic vintage Western knife or an Ontario Knife Company SP10, and you've got the idea of the pattern. So years ago, I think, he was talking to me about a little bit modernized Marine Raider Bowie, and it's been awesome to see it happen. So what we're going to do here, you're going to see specs up on the screen in front of you, but we have Work Tuff's fantastic fit and finish. We have an SK85 steel, which is something like a Japanese equivalent to 1084. So incredible toughness, great edge holding, as typical for a Work Tuff. Fantastic fit and finish. And so with the right design, these have come together with what I'm going to go ahead and say I think is the best or most exciting Bowie knife from Work Tuff that has been released. So as always, let's go tip to pommel here. We're going to talk about the blade, and the most important part of the blade, the thing that nobody seems to ever talk about, is edge geometry, specifically behind the edge thickness, which is how thick this blade is ground, or how thin in this case, behind the edge. And so we're looking at about 45 thousandths here on this knife. That is, with their higher bevel, it's a bit slicier than most of the knives, production knives that you're going to see it compared to. Now, this is not a slicing machine. It's not a kitchen knife. It's not heavily performance biased. I think that that's a pretty fair balance, especially on a knife of this size and weight, a pretty fair balance between slicing ability and toughness. And so that's an important thing to mention. I see a lot of people already playing edge games with this knife, cutting paper towels, all that kind of stuff. I fully condone that type of behavior. I fully support that kind of behavior. However, it's only relevant, in my opinion, on a knife of this size if then you can go straight into the woods, baton, and beat on things and not sustain edge damage, because you can take any knife and any edge to be hyper thin and do little tricks with it, but if you can't use the knife as intended afterwards, it's pointless. So I'm not saying that anybody's done anything pointless with this knife. What I am saying is that the edge geometry is well balanced. I think that it is plenty slicey. It bites deep enough, plenty deep enough in the woods, and is thick enough, I think, to be plenty tough. Our spine here is wonderfully sharp and just launches sparks, guys. So right here typically is where I would insert try and get some really moody, dark, bushcrafty, slow motion thing where I draw the ferrule rod across and just sparks shower out. And that didn't happen this time because I forgot to film. So that didn't happen. Now, and the reason that I'm going along with this anyways is tomorrow is the Marine Corps' birthday. This is based on a Marine Raider Bowie, and I want to get this video up tomorrow, well done, in time for the Marine Corps' birthday. So, but anyways, we've got a big belly. You'll notice a lot of Bowies, especially in this size, will have an edge that goes straight up. And here we have a big old belly that really comes out from the grip. And so I think that that helps give you a little bit of extra sweet spot with your chopping and a little bit of extra weight forward for your chopping. And if you have to choke up on the blade or anything like that, it gives you a nice edge to use when slicing. I, like, for instance, skinned a chicken like this with a big old knife of my design in the past. One thing that helps with that is this fuller. Now, I know I talked to the designer about this fuller quite a bit. He wanted it to be a fully round fuller. That wasn't necessarily an option. We have seen and I have reviewed in the past knives that failed because of an improperly designed fuller. However, although this is a flat fuller, the bottom edges are rounded. So I do not think that this is going to be a strength problem. If we were going to do a flat bottom fuller like this, what I would like to see, however, is I'd like to see the bottom edge chamfered and the top edge. So it can be a flat fuller, but I'd like to see it rounded at the bottom and rounded at the top so we don't have any so that we minimize stress risers. But overall, I think this is well done. If this is going to cause stress risers to a point where it potentially endangers the whole blade, you're going to know about it because I'm going to break it. Let's go back to the handle now. The handle. It's so easy to talk about a blade. It's so easy to look at a blade and the length of the blade and how the blade makes you feel in your pants, whatever the case may be. But the game is won or lost in the handle. And a lot of guys lose. So we have a somewhat flat handle here, which can be good for indexing. When you put this in your hand, there's no question of whether it's sideways or backwards or anything else. It fits nice in the hand. It's somewhat squarish, although you do still have contouring. It's very well finished. The pommel's very large. For me and my narrow hands, I would say the pommel is probably a little bit too large. But for guys with bigger and wider hands, I think it's perfect. One place where I see Bowies go wrong a lot is I have this massive pommel hanging out here that's not even used. Like, even if you're choked all the way down, there's still this big bunch of material down there. And I think all that does is mess up weight distribution and look silly. So we don't have any issues with that here. It is very large. It is very practical. It is very safe. Your hand's not likely to slide by it, but very comfortable. I love the choil and the choil guard here. A nice shape to this choil and choil guard. Very well done. In fact, much better than probably any of its peers. It's probably one of my favorite choil and finger guard combos there. Now, one thing that Work Tuff is fantastic for is attention to detail. And so it might be hard to see here. I'm counting this as part of the handle, but it is chamfered right here for your thumb. So you've got this ultra sharp spine, but your thumb still has a nice place to rest. Now, this is not quite perfect. I'd like to make a little change here. If there's one thing I'd change about the whole knife, it would be here. This chamfering only goes to right here. But when I use the choil, my thumb comes all the way up here. So if I was going to chamfer this guy right here, I'd like to see that pushed forward about a whole 2 inches up to here. Maybe even further for people with big thumbs. That might get in the way of striking space. I'm not really sure. But if you're going to chamfer an edge to make it comfortable here, but you have a choil, then it needs to be chamfered, in my opinion, here, so that it's still comfortable with the choil being used. All in all here, oddly, my camera wants to die for some reason, even though it was full. We've just got a properly done chopping, batoning machine here. I think that this is very well designed, very well executed. Fantastic sheath. Listen to this. Good retention. A little bit of rattle when I do that, but not rattle on the leg or anything like that. Just, this is fantastic for a production knife. And we're coming in around $200, I believe, when these drop. Amazing value, guys. Doggone camera just died, kind of like I figured it would. I think I need to buy some new batteries for it. I've got a bunch of batteries, but they get old and worn out eventually. Anyways, I'm here in my little spotty spot. Hopefully, I don't know, sometimes it cuts out a little earlier, but happy birthday to y'all crane eaters, if I didn't already say that. I'm going to put the links to Work Tuff, to well-regulated, to social medias and websites and all that crap in the description box below. And of course, below that, I will have links to my own social medias and ways that you can support this channel as well. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Let me know if you're a chopper boy or a Bowie boy, or if this knife makes you feel a certain way. I think that this is a really relevant drop, and I want to, before I hop off here, I really feel like in use and practicality, this V44X represents, when I was first getting into knives and watching people modify Becker BK9s and SC Hunglisses on blade forums, this is the feel that I feel like so many people were going after. It's so well done, and it's incredibly practical. I think if you need a big knife in the woods, that this is going to be a perfect candidate. It just feels practical all the way around. Everybody who held it at Georgia Bushcraft last week, nobody said, everybody's surprised that it felt lighter than they expected, and yet it still does work in hardwood. It still throws the chips. It still does big knife things. It still does small knife things. So a lot of people expected it to be chunky and thick and awkward, and it just isn't. The whole package that you're getting around $200, guys. This, like, if I was to go back, if I was where I was in about 2013 now on the market, this is probably the knife that I'd want to buy. Like, I'm hoping that that Work Tuff can keep this one in stock, because I think it's worth keeping in stock, because I don't think it needs any hype to sell. It's just good. Anyways, once again, talk in the comment section below, and I hope that you have a blessed day.